Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Great, excited to be back in the league.
You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So let's make sure he gets that bag.
Frauds, frauds. Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I would like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
But let's go ahead and switch into MLB. Talk a little baseball here. We're 2 weeks into the season. Some storylines around the league. Let's start first with the Tampa Bay Rays, man.
Oh, yeah.
Starting out 13-0, tying the record for the best start in Major League Baseball history with the 1987 Brewers and the 1982 Atlanta Braves. Fun fact, nobody's ever started 12-0 and then lost. There's been a few teams that went 11-0 and then 11-1. No team's ever been 12-0 and lost. So fun fact for you, there's 3 teams that have been 13-0 and then lost.
Good to know for next year when the team starts 12-0. I'm slamming money.
Hammer it. One more fun fact for you before I let you guys go. Neither of those 2 teams won the World Series. So don't bet on the Rays to win the World Series because so far teams that start 13-0 are 0-2.
Okay.
Just fun little facts for you there. But they've done it in such an impressive way. They're not lucky. They're not getting lucky. They're just literally beating the shit out of every team they come up against. I haven't looked at who they've played, and maybe they've had a favorable start to the season scheduling wise, but you still have to, they're still major league players. You know what I mean? And you're still 14-2 as of today. We're recording this on Monday, the 17th. So all of the stats we throw out in this are going to be a day late, $1 short. Yeah. Just leave us alone, okay? Sorry.
Yeah, because they're currently getting smacked 4-0 by the Reds. But
yeah, but we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it. Game's not over.
Exactly. No, they did have this. They did have a little bit of an easy start. Detroit, Washington Nationals. You got the Athletics in there. Then they hit the Red Sox, and then they run into the Blue Jays. A little bit of offense, and they lost 2 of them. But at the end of the day, though, like you said, Nate, you got to win. And when you're stealing games from bad teams, that's a sign of a good team because, you know, when you're losing series to a team like Oakland, where that's going to happen. Teams are going to lose series to Oakland this year. And are you going to be one of them? And the Rays said, hell no, not early at least.
Not yet.
Same thing like with Detroit. You got to beat up on those teams. And to start out the way they did, I mean, we thought they'd be competing in that division, but I mean, a huge run like this early, you can't lose your division really or run away with it completely. But man, it helps.
Yeah,
a lot to start the season like that.
Yeah, and if 16 games in, they've already got a 4-game lead. That's solid.
That's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's a grind to get those 4 games back because it's not like the Rays are going to just stop winning. Their offense is there. I mean, throughout the run, I mean, they scored 9+ like 5 times. So yeah, like that's at minimum too. So yeah.
For me, it's been more of their offense has been kind of the surprise for me because, you know, their pitching's always going to be there, the way they work analytics. And, you know, they throw that starter, that opener in there every once in a while, go an inning or 2 and then get weird with it. Yeah. It's their offense. Like Addison said, I think their first 6 or 7 games when they were 6 or 7-0, they won all of those games by 4+ runs. I mean, these were not close games in the slightest bit. But it does help when you play last place Oakland, last place Boston. Detroit. Last place Washington, 4th place Detroit. You know, you're 13-0 against these bottom feeders, and you're 1-2 against, you know, Toronto. It is in Toronto, so that's tough. But I will say, before the year, season-long bet, I took their under 89.5 team wins, and that looks horrible right now. But I'll stay on the other end of that. I've bet on them, I think, twice now on the money line, and they lost one of their 2 games, was it? And then I bet on the money line tonight. So I might be responsible for 2 of their 3 L's.
Wow. Rays is your guy. In
order to secure my season-long bet on the team under, I just have to bet them every single day.
Brilliant. You got to do it. That's
but
smart.
Other pitchings there with their starting and their bullpen. Their bullpen's excellent. It's always been excellent. But yeah, just their offense for me has really been the shock.
Yeah. I want to talk more about them, but I'm saving them for our later segment when we talk about our best, worst, and most surprising teams. But other obviously storylines around the MLB. There was that thing. Did you see that thing with Domingo Germán where he was stopped for a check and they're like, you got to go wash your hands and then come pitch again? If there's something on his hands, is he not supposed to be tossed immediately? Like immediately ejected?
Yeah.
Like if they think he needs to go wash his hands because he has something on them, you're done. You need to be tossed. Is that not the rule? Am I mistaken?
Well, so I think I watched a John Boy breakdown on it. He did a great breakdown. I think it came out today, or I watched it today at least. I don't know when it came out. But I think they said because they concluded it was rosin on his hand, that it was okay. Whereas if it was like some foreign substance, it'd be an automatic ejection. But I don't understand why he's exiting the field, gets felt up. You know, you got to wash your hands, comes back out, gets felt up before he even takes the mound coming back out. And then, oh, it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And apparently he, during the John Boy breakdown, so shout out John Boy Media, obviously. This is where I got all my information on this story at today. Apparently he loads up his pitching hand with rosin in the dugout before he takes the field instead of doing it on the field. And so I guess the umpire was like, yep, you're not going to get ejected, but you got to do it on the field. You can't prep your hand before you run out there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
I wonder what the rule is on that technically. Like, I feel like if he's forced to wash his hands, then you need to take the rosin bag out of the game and their hands need to be completely spotless.
Right.
Is that not allowed, like to put rosin on your hands and to grab the bag and toss it?
I think it is, but I think it was like the doing it in the dugout versus doing it on the field, doctoring it up. Might have raised an eyebrow. But it is the Yankees, they're at home, so you know how that probably went.
True, because he balled, and I will say there was a decent reduction in his spin rate per pitch after he washed his hands. Like, that's something they've got to look at. Like, do we just need to do away with the rosin bags entirely? Do we have to check every pitcher's hands before they walk out to pitch to make sure they're not too sticky? And what's too sticky? Like, how many times has he done that? Does he do this every single start and they're just now noticing?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. It's just a little fishy. I was interested about it. I was like, man, I feel like you have to toss him if you think his hands need to be washed.
Well, and how sticky is it if he's feeling him at the end of the inning and seeing it's an issue? Like, what does he come out with on that hand?
Right, because it's getting washed off with the ball every time he throws it.
Yeah.
I just don't get how you warn him, hey, go wash your hand, and then he comes out and he didn't do it. I mean, that's where my confusion is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where Rocco Baldelli's confusion was too, the Twins manager, because he got tossed literally before he threw a pitch in the inning.
Yeah.
I mean, you
was
got to get tossed on that at that point because
what are we doing?
That's what I'm screaming. The guy washed his hands and it's not good enough, and he's coming out of the dugout with substance on. Like, I don't know what else you need to toss this guy.
Right.
And,
like, what's the point of the checks?
Yeah.
And like you said, Nate, with the spin rate, percentages going down, like obviously that was an advantage. That was a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Like, so his curveball dropped, and this isn't a ton in the grand scheme of things, but it dropped like 120 rotations per minute. Like, that's a decent amount of rotation that he lost.
Yeah.
Like, that's a clear advantage. And if we're trying to take this out of the game, then you've got to take him out of the game because he was clearly doing something to his hands. I'm not saying eject the guy, but like, I don't know. Let's just define what this is. Like, if you as an umpire feel like his hands are too sticky to pitch because he's putting shit on them, that should be enough then. It's like, okay, you tossed Mad Bum a couple seasons ago for nothing on his hand, but because he looked at you, this guy's got stuff on his hands, tells you to go wash your hands, comes out and his hands are still too sticky. It's like, okay, clearly this isn't working. You're not listening to me. You're done.
Yeah.
That's just my thought. Other stuff I noticed this past week, the Wednesday, Yankees and Guardians play. Did you guys see the umps overturned a call when there was no challenge? They showed the play on the big board in between innings, and the umps were like, oh, we got it wrong. We're going to change the call right now. No challenge. They didn't get a challenge done in time, but they changed the call. Can you do that? I don't think that's allowed. Right?
So I also watched this. So I saw the original call on the field was, I think they called it a catch in the outfield. And then said the guy tagged and scored from third before the guy got doubled off at second. Is that what happened on that play?
So they called it. So I think it was an inning-ending catch, and it bounced. He trapped it, and they called it a catch. And the other team didn't challenge it in time. Like, there was no challenge. So in between innings, like, the team switched positions. The batting team went out to the field and everything, and then they saw it on the screen again, and the umps were like, "That's not a catch. No." Overturn, switch back out, send the team back out to defense and the hitting team back in, and they restarted play. Fortunately, he got out of it. I'm pretty sure he didn't give up any runs from it, but can you imagine he gives up a tank, like a 2-run home run there in a big spot? I just don't think that ump should be able to do that. Like, that's what challenges are for. If he didn't think you caught it, where's the challenge at? You only have so long. I just umps. I'm just I hate to talk about the freaking umps, man, but they
That
like
just
to make it.
opens the door though, because what
Right.
happens when the team uses a challenge and then a play clearly needs to be challenged in the ninth inning? You stepping in, but they
Right.
already challenge.
Do you just tell your PR people show it on the big screen a shit ton until they realize their mistake?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's called on the field. It's got to stand unless it's challenged.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
Don't want to give John Boy too much, promotion here, but he also did a break. I think there was one out in the inning when this happened because there was
there?
something. There was something with the catch in the outfield initially, and something with a runner crossing the plate and like the timing of like the third out somewhere. I don't know if I don't know if there's two runners on and the second runner got like doubled off or he got in a rundown and tagged out or what it was.
Sure.
But the reason Francona didn't challenge it is because he didn't think the guy scored before the third out was recorded, which they counted the run. So he didn't want to challenge the catch and then overturn on the run because the runner didn't score. And on the other side, Boone didn't want to challenge the runner not scoring in time because they didn't want to look at the catch in the outfield initially. So it was like neither team wanted to challenge, and all of a sudden there's a challenge out of nowhere. And I don't really know how that ended up. You said they ended up coming out and getting out of it.
They ended up switching out.
But it's funny that either team wanted to challenge it because of what it could have affected either way.
And so then the umps just challenged it themselves, which is a slippery slope to start going down if you start letting umps overturn calls at any point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, and that's tough because what is that like? Either they saw it on the big board and then we met and decided to change it, or they're somehow getting notified, yo, this was a mistake, you guys got to change it. Then my question is, man, what happens when you miss a really bad strike three call? Why aren't you calling in then? That's what I'm just saying as a manager. Why aren't you calling in then? I mean, it's the same idea, but yeah, that's some shit. Like you can't, that's weird. You can't force them to challenge either. Like sometimes, hey, there's a reason we're human umps. Like, let's just roll with them. So we're rolling.
This is what we want. This is why we're not going with robo umps. Like this is what everybody wants. So let's just do it. Other stuff wouldn't be right if I didn't bring up Jordan Walker and his historic start to his MLB career. 12 straight games with a hit to start, ties the record for a player 20 years or younger. Tying Eddie Murphy from 1912. That was a record that stood on its own for 111 years. That's crazy. And there are times where guys go, and it's not like he has a bad average either. Like sometimes people go 1 for 4, 1 for 4, 1 for 5, but just keep hitting streak alive. He's hitting 330 through this hitting streak, which is real good. And he isn't hitting dribblers. He's got 10 batted balls over 100 miles per hour on the exit velo. Maxing it out at 113.9 miles per hour off the bat. Like he just swings the damn twig so hard.
He's a monster, man. And what a way to start the career. Had to be nervous that first game when we get a hit. I bet he wasn't thinking, I'm going to start a 12-game hit streak. But
no way. Just gets the ball rolling, man. Yeah, he's real good. Real excited about him.
Another player that I think is having an amazing start, Adley Rutschman, man, in Baltimore. Really just showing I'm worth this like prospect hype that I was. I mean, he's been 344, 4 nukes. One of them was a walk-off, 13 ribbies. Just his OPS is over 1,000. I mean, obviously, I don't know if he'll be able to sustain that, but if he can for a while, he'll just show that he's still hot. But huge for Baltimore for a guy like that to pan out. At least looking like he's going to pan out.
Yeah.
Was huge last year in big clutch moments. Got the clutch gene in him. I mean, that's huge, kid, to find that enough. But shout out Rutschman, though, because he's dominating right now.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And we're going to talk about this guy probably all season. Shohei Ohtani's looked fantastic all season too. 1 run allowed in 21 innings pitched, if that. Just mowing people down and then getting it done at the dish too. He's 17 for 57 with 3 home runs. So he's hitting 298 with a 385 on base percentage. Him and Mike Trout are going to be great again, and the Angels are going to miss the playoffs by 7 games. And there's just no way he re-signs there, right? There's no way he goes back.
He can't. No.
That'd be just foolish.
Him and Lars Nootbaar both coming to town, and we're getting Roki. Because we got Seiya, baby. He's going to say very nice in Chicago. Come on, join us.
Building the Japanese World Baseball Classic team in Chicago.
They clearly
they won it.
Real quick, going back to Jordan Walker, I wrote this down as well. This is the 5th time in Cardinals franchise history a player has started on opening day before his 21st birthday. First time since 1923.
Woo!
Been 100 years since a Cardinals player had been 20 or younger on opening day and started the game.
Jeez.
So that's just even more impressive. You talk about the youth of this guy and what he's do early in his career. I have three other guys' names written down. I don't know if you want me to do one at a time. You guys can, give a guy if you got a guy written down, or if you just want me to go all three in a row.
Go for it. Hammer him.
All right. The first guy, Baby Barry Bonds, Luis Arias. What a trade. You give up Pablo Lopez, who was probably your 2 last year behind Alcantara. Yep. And you go get a guy who won the AL batting title last year, 52 at-bats this year, 24 hits, 462 average, Jeez. 517 on-base percentage, 1152 OPS. I mean, my God, he's only hit 1 bomb, but, I mean, that's 23 other hits.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's just filling it up. He's an on-base machine. Wow. What a win of a trade, because Lopez on the other side, not one of the guys I wrote down. But Pablo Lopez has looked great for Minnesota as well.
Yeah.
So you talk about the rare double win for both
win.
The second guy I wrote down is a guy drafted in our MLB draft a few weeks ago, Garrett Cole. 4-0 on the year, 0.95 ERA, 21 and a third innings pitched, 32 Ks, 0.74 WHIP, 3 earned runs in 28 innings, 3 earned runs in 4 starts. That's incredible. Bonafide A. Short hair Garrett Cole is apparently a thing in New York.
Elite.
Yeah.
So if he's got short hair, watch the hell out. And then the third and final guy I wrote down, Matt Chapman up in Toronto. 57 at bats, 24 hits on the year, 3 dongs, 421 average, 484 on base, 719 slug, 1204 OPS. I mean, my God.
Jeez.
Absolutely filling it up. And he's probably like the 5th guy you'd bring up when you talk about the Toronto Blue Jays offense. So, wow, talk about a loaded offense and talk about a start to the season for Matt Chapman.
Yeah. Just to touch on Cole, man, might have been using that sticky stuff. I mean, every pitcher was. Maybe got a little accustomed to it, but he obviously hit the grind and said, man, I can do it without that. Been doing that my whole life, and I'll show you boys. Maybe got a little used to that sticky stuff, but I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. He's been balling, man. 4-0.
I love him as a Yankee, man. I don't know what it is. He
fits in. He was always a Yankee.
He's fiery. I love it, man.
Yeah.
As long as they're not
good.
Oh, as long as they're not recording and posting his like little prep post up and hyped little speeches in the clubhouse, because those are like, yeah, guys, okay, guys,
Yeah,
let's go, guys.
Wait, did you see speaking of Cole, actually, did you see the video from the dugout? He threw the complete game shutout yesterday, and in the 8th inning, he's got a banana. First off, clean rips the banana in half. All right, just a tip off, which you love to see. Get the tip, got some weird bacteria apparently, so get that out of there. All of a sudden, they cut back to the pitch. Dude hadn't peeled it yet or anything. He just had snapped it. They cut back to the pitch, foul tip. All of a sudden, cut back to the dugout. It is all in Cole's mouth. Like, it is, the banana's gone. He's not even putting it in his mouth. It's sideways. It's already in his mouth. And the Yankees guy was literally like, wow. Like, he was like mid-sentence, like, I wonder if he peels it. And he's like, wow. Because the banana was gone. And I mean, it was hilarious. Garrett Cole, absolute legend for that. Just banana all at once. Can't get enough.
It was double chipmunk sticking out both cheeks.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was, man. It was hilarious. But he's got the cramping up a little bit. Yeah, man, that is too good. I think Nate might be lagging a little bit.
That's all right. Do we keep going here, or
yeah, he is. He's catching. He's back. He's back.
Keep rolling. I'm back. We're lagging a little bit here.
That's all right. I think that's all we got as far as surprising or like storylines, unless you got something else. Or Clark.
No, I mean storylines. That's really. I was saying.
I did.
Some of them are teams, and I feel like we'll talk about them more so when we talk about teams that are off to good and bad starts. So we'll get into those for some of my storyline type things. Yeah.
Agreed. Oh, come on.
You're here.
All right. God, stupid internet, dude. Any internet provider listening to this, I will pay big dollars for a rock solid internet. I3, you're struggling. You're huge. More money than ever before. Yes, let's go ahead and jump into best team so far, worst team so far. Oh.
We've got you. We can hear you.
You're here.
The picture's just being funny though, but we can hear you though.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm depressed. My best team, obviously, Tampa Bay Rays, man. Has to be them to start. currently 14-2. Their run differential is plus 72 through 16 games. That's insane.
Yeah.
You talked about their pitching. They've only given up 42 runs through 16 games. That's absurdly good. Just absurdly good. But then they've scored 114 through 16 games. No one else in the MLB has scored 95.
Yeah.
They are more than 19, 20-point runs scored more than their opponents.
Yeah, that's absolute insanity. Rays are definitely just on fire. I mean, I feel like we all could talk about them. So another team I'm gonna throw out, at least their run differential, besides the Rays, which is insanity at plus 72. Milwaukee Brewers have a plus 28 run differential, 77 runs scored. Not the second highest. They do have the second best run differential, but it is 77 runs is middle of the pack. Shows their pitching, but their offense is playing well. Maybe some questions there. At least I had questions. They're playing. They're 11-5, 5-1 at home. Pitching is showing up. There wasn't going to be the question there for Milwaukee. It was going to be the offense, and it is showing up a little bit. Got to give props to Atlanta, 12-4. Again, they're just going to be competing for years to come because they sign everybody that's good to 15-year deals for $10, and it's really impressive. I will say, the West, AL West in general, maybe a smidge. They're beating up on each other, but everybody's right there besides the A's, obviously, 3-13 A's. But I mean, the Rangers are in first with 9 games, and the Astros are in fourth with 7. I got to shout out the Angels, though. 8-8, and a good start, and right here competing. Got to do it all year. Obviously, almost got swept by the Red Sox, which would have been a huge L. They got a W from a rain delay game today, actually. So monster dub for the Angels to get out not swept. Stay 8-8, compete. Don't go on a massive losing streak because you got Shohei and Trout. You guys got to show up where they really are gone. Shohei is 100% gone if you guys don't make the playoffs and win a series. Like, just straight up. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
he's not the guy that, like Trout, that's just gonna accept it and hope the team gets better. Shohei he's gone, baby, because he's a winner. And I mean, I will say also, shout out Cubs a little bit. Started out 1-4, a little tweaky, but have bounced back 8-6, won 3 series in a row. So just an answer after the first stumble out of the gate to come back big. I'm loving it so far. Dansby Swanson, great signing, and the pitching's been okay, at least from the starters. Bullpen, as long as they don't blow games. They've done it once already, but we'll be chilling. But definitely ups and downs for some teams. But those are my teams that I think are having good starts, obviously, right now.
Yeah, definitely. Colin, what you got?
I mean, you guys have mentioned it. The top 3 I'd written down were the Rays, obviously 14-2. You talked about the run differential. I had Atlanta Braves 12-4. I think they're on an 8 or 9 game win streak currently. Love that. They look just as dominant as they always do. Son of a bitches, man. Yeah. And then Brewers, you talked about them. Definitely a shock for me. Another team I took the season-long win total under on. And of course, here we go out of the gate, 11-5. You talk about a rough first couple of starts for Corbin Burns out of the gate, getting used to the pitch clock maybe. But the last start he just had was phenomenal. So maybe he figured out a thing or two in that start. And that could be scary moving forward for the rest of us Central fans.
Agreed. Definitely.
I do got to shout out the Diamondbacks as well, quick though. Prior to the series with the Marlins, they had not lost a series yet. They lost a series 2-1 to Miami. But before that, they hadn't lost a series. And at the end of the day, it is early, but they're first right now in the NL West. And no way anyone would have had that 15 games in, 16 games in. You just won it. You're lying if you said you would have.
2 games in. 2 games in. I got them in the cellar.
Seriously. And right now, I mean, hey, and they're up on a pretty dookie team right now, 1-0
Wow.
in the 5th. So just hope they keep it rolling.
Wow.
Win another series here.
Yeah, if you told me 3 games in, I'm saying 0-3 Diamondbacks, and here they are 2-1 against the Dodgers in the first weekend. I had them written down as one of my surprise teams as well, Clark.
Yeah, they've been very, very solid.
Well, do we want to talk about the bad?
Yeah, let's do the bad. I think there's one obvious worst team in my opinion right now. I don't know if we just did all of did you guys just do good surprising? I missed some of it because I was relocating.
we didn't really do surprising. We just did
Okay.
kind of just best
Good.
overall.
Okay. Good.
Obviously, the Rays and Brewers are somewhat surprising, but not really. We knew they were both good pitching. It was really both their offenses that we were really worried about. And then Clark talked about the Braves, and then gave the Cubs a shout out as well.
Okay. Right. Gotcha. My worst team is the Oakland Athletics so far.
Oh.
By a country mile. 3-13 as of right now. They have a negative 63 run differential through 16 games. They've given up 125 runs so far. That's an average of 7.8 runs per game given up by their pitching staff. That is horrible. And on top of that, they've only scored 62 runs themselves, which is averaging 3.9 runs a game. They're scoring half of the runs that they're allowing on average per game. They are so bad. And it's such a bummer, man. Like they're the definition of why the MLB should look at some form of salary cap. Just like teams have to spend a minimum amount of money.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're non-competitive. They're just non-competitive. They have scored 62 runs and their run differential is negative 63. They've given up more than twice the amount of runs than they have scored.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's just not acceptable.
Man, it can somehow get you a good season here or there, but it's going to get you bad more than not.
Yeah. So I've got Oakland as my worst team by an absolute mile, and I'll save my surprise team for after this one. So Addison, who you got as your bad teams?
Well, obviously, if we're not all listed, Oakland. I mean, obviously, easy to beat up on the bad team. This one's right there with them, though. And they threw it in earlier in the season when they signed this guy, Zach Greinke, and the Kansas City Royals.
Yep.
Absolutely to an atrocious start, 4-12. Only scored 54 runs, negative 28 differential. Can't win at home, 1-9. 3-3 on the road. That's not a good recipe for success.
Jeez.
But yeah, that Zach Greinke signing to start this year, that was to appease the fans because they knew they were going to be dog shit. But
Yep.
at the end of the day,
Butts
though,
in the
small
seats.
market team, they competed the last decade, so it's going to take them a while to get back to relevancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just two teams in the AL that's just going to get beat up on. Can't wait to play them. When you see the Royals on the schedule, it's a deep sigh. Thank God.
Yep. You grin.
Yep, that I-70 series will be real nice this year, hopefully.
Yes. Hopefully.
Obviously you guys talked about Oakland and Kansas City. I wrote down 5 teams for best, 5 teams for worst, and 5 teams for surprise. So
Okay.
obviously 2 of those 5 were on my worst list with Oakland and Kansas City. Right behind them record wise, I mean, you have Washington Nationals and Colorado Rockies are both 5-11. They're
Yeah.
the next 2 worst records. We expect that out of Washington. You saw, obviously trading Juan Soto last year, they're not trying to compete anytime soon. Otherwise you don't make that move. And then Colorado, man, that's a team where I think I probably had them 4th or 5th in their own division, which, you expect
Makes
a team
sense.
to be like that. But 5-11, man, I feel like they should have been playing much more competitive in these games to be 5-11 on the
Their
season.
offense is so good, but their pitching
Right.
is so bad.
Right. So those 2 teams, 5-11, and then Detroit 5-9. I mean, your one glimpse of hope, at least as far as name recognition goes, you're already benching him to prove a point for lack of hustle or not knowing what the hell the situation is game wise. On top of him already hitting like shit.
Yeah.
So it's just like one of those situations where it's like, man, you're really just grasping on the one fringe all-star you had at the time of signing him. Otherwise, you're just looking at progression-wise. What do you have coming up? What does your future look like? Because you don't have much to bank on right now as a
Obviously,
Detroit.
that new Drake song to the Cubs, "Come and Rescue Me," because he's trapped in Detroit. I mean, he went there for the money, and you are reaping what you sow, man. They suck, and I'm sure it's not fun. People are saying, "Oh, is he committed?" Well, man, I mean, that's also on you. You went to an organization that clearly wasn't going to compete. You weren't going to be the piece that pushes them over the top. You basically went to a rebuilding situation that was worse off than the Cubs. So enjoy trying to win there. I'm sure that does suck, and it is a bummer having to play on a bad team. But you went there for the money, man. So
I mean, he's a meme player right now with
Yeah,
his
he's bad.
horrible swings.
I mean, you hated to see it as a Cubs fan, all those sliders, but at the end of the day, like it's just how do you not grow past that and out of that? Like
Right.
you can seriously throw a pitch 20 feet off the plate.
He's-
Swing.
Yeah.
He's gonna do his little fall swing, and it's just like, well, And sure, somehow he's gonna hit one of those for a single, but man, when you do that one time and you strike out the 99 other, it's just not worth it. And it's just like, man, how have you been in the league for 10 years plus, man? Can you not develop a little bit of plate discipline on the outside?
Just a little bit.
Clearly not. Clearly not.
No. He's
It's almost to the point. It's almost to the point where if the ball starts in the middle of the plate, you just take if you're him. Middle away, you take because they're not fastballs away. Because how good is he extending his arms?
Mhm.
There's a slider in the left-handed batter's box, and he's out there just looking like me in a show.
Yeah, he's hunting bad. Speaking
Oh,
of,
that was the
us three right here. Anybody listening, man? I'm about to throw this on the TikTok. Sure, we're podcast, but you throw us on co-op 3v3 MLB the show. We'll take on anybody and we'll clap. So you might have to throw that out there. I'm just saying.
we should throw out an open
Calling it
challenge.
out right now.
Open challenge. Play
Yeah,
us.
no one's taking us on.
Yeah, I love that.
change-ups in the dirt aren't allowed.
Yes,
Good
please.
change up. Very good change up.
I won't hang a splitter, I promise. Your guys, who do you guys have? I'll go first for my most surprising team, and it's not a good surprising. It's a bad surprising.
Uh-oh.
It's a team. I don't know if I'll have to look through my papers, but some of us may have had them winning their division in a competitive division. The Philadelphia Phillies. They are 6-10 as of right now. They came off of a World Series run where they looked real good in the playoffs. Lost, to the Astros, unfortunately, because we all hate the Astros. But in this offseason, all they did was add Trey Turner, who's one of the most electric players in MLB, signed him to an 11-year contract. And they're 6-10. They've given up 91 runs this season. They've allowed the most runs in the National League. They're only behind the White Sox and Oakland for major league lead in most runs allowed, which is crazy because the Phillies pitching staff should be so much better than this. I've got some notables here for you. From the bullpen, Craig Kimbrell, a 7.5 ERA. Sir Anthony Dominguez, 12.7 ERA. Gregory Soto, 5.4 ERA. Those are three big name relievers that are all just falling way short of expectations. And then you get into their starters. Aaron Nola has a 5.9 ERA so far this season. Zach Wheeler has the best ERA as a starting pitcher at 4. He is their best starting pitcher by a mile. That's not going to get it done. And then Trey Turner, he's hit 21 home runs last season and 100 RBIs. This year through 68 ABs, 0 home runs, 4 RBIs. That's it from him. On this loaded offense, just isn't getting it done himself. They're just not playing well at all. Their pitching is so bad, and this was not expected from them. And I'm sure their fans did not expect this either, where they're just, tied for 4th in their division, maybe even fighting to not be in last. I've got to look now because I'm curious. They are currently a game ahead of Washington for last place in the National League East. That's not where we expected them to be 16 games into this season. I'll tell you that.
And I will say, hearing you say, man, how the amount of runs they've given up, to think, they're still 6-10, not that bad.
Yeah.
But then you look at Atlanta, who's 12-4 and just absolutely running away with the division right now. But then you go, just one team. Oh, just kidding. We got the Mets, who are also 10-6
without Verlander.
Yeah, exactly. Miami, who's playing well and is continuing to grow. Obviously, Bryce Harper missing is huge, but in baseball, we know one guy is not going to come in, and you don't just start winning games because of one guy. He can help though a lot.
He can help for sure.
I will say they just got to try to float as long as they can, man, and hope he gets back. And when he's back, he can be Bryce because they need him. They need him. Hopefully he can unlock Trey as well. Like you said, Nate, he's got people in front and behind him in this lineup. So, and obviously it's not World Baseball Classic fatigue, but it's just tough start though, because you're looking around the league. It's like other guys are jumping off to a great start, and they're going, man, it's because I've been playing baseball for a while, and I'm locked in right now.
Right.
And Trey, tough start, but just because, especially since it was the World Series team. I mean,
that's why they're most surprising for me, is because they came off of a World Series run and added Trey Turner, who is hitting 338 this season, which is great, but he just doesn't have the power numbers at all. And then Bryson Stott's hitting 380 from the leadoff spot, and Schwarber's only hitting 230, but he's got some bombs, and Castellanos 280, and then Marsh, and they've got the best catcher in baseball, arguably, unless you want to say Adley's jumped him, which it's close probably. But their lineup is just too good for 6-10. The lineup is doing way too well for them to have lost 10 games already. Their pitching is the problem.
Yeah,
and I don't see any reinforcements.
Yep. And Addison, you mentioned it with Harper. Obviously, you said, one guy is not going to make or break in the MLB when you have, 9 or 10 guys now with the DH being an everyday player. But 2 guys might, and Reese Hoskins really hurts as well. Those are 2, that's a 3-4 hitter or 2-3 hitter when they're both healthy. And you look at the flip side of that, Nate, you talk about their pitching and, what can help aid an offense that's missing a couple of their big hitters, and it's the pitching staff. You talked about Soto. You talked about Kimbrel. He also went out and got Taiwan Walker, who was supposed to be like their number 3 or number 4 starter coming into the year. And I don't know his stats on the top of my head, but obviously it hasn't been great if they've been given this much as a pitching staff and as a whole. But a couple of bright spots. You mentioned Bryson Stott as the leadoff, and also Brandon Marsh this year. I don't have numbers in front, but I've just heard everybody raving about how Brandon Marsh's swing looks drastically changed, and how he's, becoming an everyday player versus maybe like a defensive, replacement late in the game.
Yeah, he's hitting 378.
Yeah.
With
That's
2
insane.
home runs and 10 RBIs. Like, he's really hitting well too.
So who knows, you talk about a pitching staff, if they can somehow right the wrongs and, get the ship, head in the right direction, that could be a team that could flip that switch pretty quickly, in my opinion.
You think Taiwan Walker is a 4.2 ERA, so just behind Wheeler.
Not awful.
Not terrible, no. I'm more surprised by Aaron Nola, honestly.
Yeah, who's the guy that's I'm going to free agency, man. No matter what, I'm going to free agency. All right, man, go ahead.
Yep, go for it. See you.
The number is
high. Surprising team.
That number is high for his ERA, but I do think he's the one that got rocked in Texas, that 16 to whatever game. I think he gave up 9 runs in that 1 inning. I think it was him.
But
But
opening series too, so it's like first game.
That was
out.
Wheeler, Colin. That was Wheeler. He gave up 4 in
Wheeler.
that one.
well, shit.
I will say, there's a couple more surprising teams. Gonna go to the NL Central teams. I guess I should have thrown this team out as a good. The Pirates, though,
Yeah.
jumping out to a good start. And I mean, I thought low-key this was gonna be. Obviously, we'll see how it goes throughout the whole season. It is early. We're 16 games in. Got a long 150 to go, but McCutcheon signing, obviously he's still a good player, but I thought that was hey, let's go and get a guy to maybe appease some fans if we suck.
Yep.
And instead, they're out here 5-5 in their last 10. I mean, they have a -5 run differential, so they're obviously competing in every game. They're 9-7 and 2 games back right now from Milwaukee, who's got 11 wins. And if you would have told me that, I would have said you're lying. I would have said they're more around 5-6 wins right now. And instead, they're above 500 by 2 games. And obviously, I hate to be the dick, but Cardinals, the pitching.
Yeah.
That's just the one. I mean, wasn't.
We
You
knew
guys
it
are
coming
going
into the
we
year.
got a staff that's going to shut down everybody, and it's turned into this.
No.
But was it going to be this bad where you guys need your offense to go ballistic some games to win? But I'll also say this: so early, pitchers might not have it. And
Right.
let's see what happens. A little bit more we go, the longer we go, and at the end of the day, that front office, if somebody's available at the deadline and they're pitching well, you got to go get them. And it can't be old guys. It can't be Corey Kluber. It
Mm-mm.
can't be somebody that's just, let's go get an arm, like it was with
Right.
John Lester, like it was with all these guys that, it's just inning eaters. No, we need a guy that if we're in the playoffs, he's pitching game 2 at worst.
Yeah.
Straight up. And that's
Definitely.
a game changer. I mean, you guys' offense is right there. Figured it out big time. I've been playing way better as of late. That 5-5 in the last 10 is huge.
Yeah.
Because there was a
Easy.
chance I was going 2-8 potential, and instead the Cardinals have answered back big though. And obviously that offense is going to keep them around all year. It's
Yeah.
just that's the one I'd say.
We knew pitching was
letdown.
going to be a problem.
That's the one letdown so far is just the pitching, because again, this team offensively is World Series contender good.
Yes.
It's just will the staff
Can the
will
pitching
pitchers
get it
be able
there?
to figure it out? It's early though. Still early. You can't think though we want to get into a bloodbath, because there are going to be days where you're off. That's just how
Yeah.
baseball works. Got to get the pitching stuff figured out, and then that's scary though, because I will say, Milwaukee, great start. We'll see. We'll see how long they stay like this.
I don't expect them to.
They've really shown what their offense can be, and that's a dud.
Yeah.
So, not that I don't think they're going to run away with the division. So it's like if the Cardinals get that figured out at all, I
Mhm.
mean, honestly, shout out the Reds too.
Yeah.
NL Central is no longer the worst division in baseball. It was a couple
No.
of years ago for sure. We're climbing out of that hole. Shout
AL
out.
Central. AL Central.
AL Central, baby.
AL Central.
So bad. Just overall bad. But
Horrible.
yeah, NL Central just in general, got to give them a
Solid.
shout out just because they're playing well, all the teams right now.
Yeah.
And
But yeah,
the
that's
Reds, who look like they're going to get a dub against the Rays.
Yeah, I mean, they're up 8-0.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's
smacking
that
'em.
pisses me off. I was hoping for you to go.
8-1.
Oh, Rays are up.
Yeah, 8-1 for the Reds right now over the Rays.
So much for that Rays money night.
Yeah, you should bet on them
Not
again
bad.
tomorrow so I can bet against them tomorrow.
Mhm.
Well, okay. So surprise team for
Mm-hmm.
myself. I wrote down 5 as well. I already said that. We've talked about 4 of the 5 in some facet. I had 2 good and 3 bad. The 2 good, Addison, you mentioned the Diamondbacks, and then obviously we all have mentioned the Tampa Bay Rays. Just how good surprised me for the
Yeah, the
Rays, the
offense is
Diamondbacks being in
starting
first
to-
place.
Yeah, like Nate, you said, the
Diamondback-
pitching staff. Sorry to cut you. The Rays. They've allowed 42 runs.
That's
That's
crazy.
a okay offense, winning 9 games, 10 games to start the season. They've scored 114 or whatever it is, 112.
Mhm.
Like that's a joke.
Yeah.
Right. Diamondbacks in first place in the West, surprising good as well, 9-7, above 500. We'll see how long that lasts as well, but who knows? The 3 bad, we just talked about 2 of them, Philadelphia and St. Louis. I think you look at both teams, they're kind of similar spots. Their offense is good enough to win, but their pitching has really let them down. The
Yep.
only difference, in my opinion, is Philly obviously had much higher expectations for
For
their,
their
pitching
pitching, definitely.
than the Cardinals did coming into the year, especially with Wainwright hurt. And then the one team we haven't talked about yet that's a surprising bad is the Houston Astros, 7-9 on the year. I know it's not the biggest deal. 7-9, you're not out of it. Obviously, you still have 1,000 games to play.
They're in fourth.
Yeah.
But they're in 4th in their division, and it shows how important really Jose Altuve is to that offense, because without him in that leadoff spot, they got to get him back as soon as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that was my one surprise that we hadn't already talked about, was the Astros just being under 500, but it's early for all
Astros
these teams.
under 500 early in the season and have a +7 run differential.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, they just lost some games dumb, and then it just shows, oh, hey, this is the team that won the World Series, but we're just not quite all put together yet.
I also am a little surprised with how bad the White Sox have been. I know not many are super surprised by that, but man, they're straight up terrible. Like their pitching staff should be so much better. If you told me that their 5 starters of Dylan Cease, Mike Clevenger, Lance Lynn, Michael Kopech, and Lucas Giolito, if they had those 5 starters and 3 of them had a 6+ ERA right now, I'd say you're crazy. But that's just the way it is. Clevenger and Cease are doing their thing, but Lynn, Kopech, and Giolito are all 6+. That's shocking. And they have a young offense, man. For them to be 6-10 is such a disappointment for them. They had high hopes for these last few years, and they have been duds.
Are a good thing in sports. And I'm not saying, you can't hire people you're close with and stuff like that, but Jerry Reinsdorf, you potentially had a team that was built to compete for 5 to 6 years.
Mhm.
And then you let your the blindness of friendship, you let friendship blind you and go, oh, Tony La Russa, the game has passed you by 20 years, by 15
Mhm.
years now. I've got a team that doesn't fit you at all. These guys, like, it's to the point where guys no longer almost even respect La Russa because it's been so long that you're out of the game. Some of
Right.
these guys don't realize what you are to the game, which is a great manager, like Hall of Fame, like manager. But it's just, you're really on the cusp of a dynasty. That's what people were saying. I know they crowned it a little early, clearly, but man, you really think that manager hire had something to do with it? La Russa really screwed that pooch for 2 years, and they just didn't get rid of him when they should have. Should have jumped the gun on that. And again, it's oh man, he's my buddy, he's my friend, and it's like, too bad, man. It's a business. If it's not your friend, are you firing him? If it's not your friend, are
Right.
you okay with this team not meeting expectations?
There's no way.
No, you're not. And you're gonna look back at that and go, damn, why do we go and hire 85-year-old La Russa?
Who'd been out of the game since 2011.
To manage a ball club, falling asleep during MLB games. Come on, man. Like, I get it if you're the old guy in the stands. You're the old
Right.
guy in the dugout.
That's what he should have been, was the old guy in the stands.
Calls. Yeah, and that's tough. And at the end of the day, Tony, got to turn that down, man. Really just ruins the legacy.
Yeah, it does. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you think about him. It's like, oh yeah, he went and ruined a potentially really good White Sox team for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think personally, for me, a reason I'm not horribly surprised with the White Sox, just they're so inconsistent. I mean, one game they look fantastic, and then like that Cease game in Houston.
Mhm.
I forget what night that was. It might have been a Sunday night a couple weeks ago. Dylan Cease goes like 7, gives up 1,
He is the
and
stud.
the White Sox win like 4-1, 5-1, and it's like, okay, this team looks like it can compete with whoever they face, and
Mhm.
that's just not the case because they can lose to whoever they can face as well.
Yeah. But yeah, that's our best, worst, and surprising teams for this point in the MLB season. Like I said, we're about 16 games in, which is just shy of a tenth of the way. So we'll keep updating this as the season goes. But let's just